Hey guys, happy quarantine, Michael here, and today, while we're all locked inside, I wanted to talk about a new Stranger Things theory I stumbled across that I think will explain a lot. So we're gonna break it all down. There's a few different ways we could see this theory play out, and it will also explain a bit more about what's going on throughout Season 4. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming videos. We've got a great community here that loves to talk about all the same things that you love to talk about, so be sure to go down and hit that red button to join the community. We're going to jump right into it because there's a lot to talk about. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, I want to just briefly explain what happened at Chernobyl just so everyone's on the same page. This happened in April of 1986, which just coincidentally, yes, that's right, I said it in quotations, lines up perfectly with Stranger Things Season 4. Each season takes place 1 year after the other. Season 1 took place in 1983, Season 2 happened in 1984, Season 3 in 1985, and Season 4 in 1986. And where in the year they take place happens sooner with each season, as if they're going backwards. Or upside down. Season 1 with Christmas, Season 2 with October with Halloween, Season 3 was July, and Season 4 is right on track to happen in April 1986, which just happens to be when the Chernobyl accident happened. Crazy, right? It's like they were planning this from the very beginning. 1986 plus Soviet Russia equals Chernobyl. There's no way around it. Okay, so back in 1986, the Russians had a nuclear power plant in Chernobyl that was inherently unstable. And on April 26, they tried running the reactor at low power, which made it even more unstable without taking their normal safety precautions, which resulted in a huge power surge that ruptured some of the pressure tubes that were storing fuel. This caused a small explosion, which blew the 1,000-ton lid off the reactor, rupturing the rest of the pressure tubes, causing an even bigger explosion. Chernobyl was on fire for 10 days straight, and enough radiation leaked out to be carried by winds all across Europe. Over 300,000 people had to be evacuated from the neighboring towns, and the whole incident caused roughly around $235 billion worth of damage. And it's said that Chernobyl and the surrounding area will be completely uninhabitable for around 20,000 years due to all the radiation. Now, that being said, I hope everyone's having a good quarantine. I hope you all are safe and healthy, and thank goodness we're not dealing with a nuclear fallout right now because that just sounds awful. The radiation from Chernobyl was said to have affected almost 100,000 people across Europe and all of Russia, giving some mutations and some thyroid cancer. And all around, it was just a tragedy. That's what you get when a bunch of Russians try running a janky nuclear reactor. I mean, what did you expect? But Chernobyl was literally Russians cutting corners and deliberately not taking their safety precautions, and look what happened. You know how long it takes the Russians to do an oopsie and kill themselves? In fact, it's literally the amount of time that I'll stop this YouTube video for and wait for you to subscribe. Russians blowing themselves up. And we're back. It's almost expected that the Russians will mess up and do an oopsie, so what's to say an accident won't happen in Season 4 that they just try to coin as the reactor explosion from Chernobyl and evacuate the surrounding towns? The government didn't even address the explosion for a whole day and a half after it happened. And when they did, they just ordered a local temporary evacuation due to an accident at the Chernobyl atomic power station. They said radiation conditions were developing in the city and they had an hour and a half to get their stuff together and evacuate. The Russians never addressed the accident though. Scientists in Sweden detected the radioactive fallout and then it was traced back to Chernobyl. Then they just said that one of their reactors had been damaged. As more press picked it up, it was called Atom Cloud Horror and Russia's Cloud of Death. It took them 18 days. 18 days. They were well into May before they decided to publicly address the incident. That's crazy. A nuclear reactor explodes and they just don't tell anyone. The rest of the world is just sitting around knowing something's up and no one has said anything about it. So the theory is, what if the Chernobyl accident was a cover-up for Eleven's greatest battle of all time? The whole season will be leading up to a massive end battle with an army of mutated demogorgons or the Mind Flayer itself, and what if there's a massive explosion that leaks radiation everywhere that's just gonna end up being covered up by it being Chernobyl? That would be awesome to see, and it sounds like something right up the Duffer Brothers' alley. But there's more to this theory and how it can actually work in Season 4. Netflix just released their second teaser for Season 4, showing us Hopper still alive and being held prisoner in Russia. And for a while now, the Duffer Brothers have been talking about wanting to take the show on the road, and it looks like that's finally what they're going to do. I mean, Dr. Owens even said that they would use something familiar to convince the public to not look any further into the strange happenings. This could be hinting at a massive battle between Elle and possibly all the other numbers versus the Mind Flayer, which I'm sure would result in some massive explosion and fallout, which might just be easier to cover up with a nuclear reactor accident. I mean, nuclear accident or 11's greatest fight? Because for a while now, they've been hinting a lot in the Stranger Things expanded universe of books and comics of the appearance of some of the other numbers from Hawkins' lab to appear in the show. Like, there's a really good chance that they're going to be in season 4 and will end up fighting alongside 11 and the rest of the gang. I'm sure we'll also see 8, who helped Elle in season 2. I'm sure she'll come back and make another appearance. We know the most about her, so I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to kill her off or had her sacrifice herself so 11 doesn't have to die. Although her name doesn't start with B. Maybe 8's just not her real name. 11's real name is Jane, so maybe 8's a Brittany or a Brooke or something. Then she'll die for sure. But the first episode is called the Hellfire Club, and while that could just be a new name for whatever club the kids start up after they move away from Hawkins, there's a good chance this is a reference to all the numbers coming together to form their own Hellfire Club. This name was originally a group of X-Men with superhuman abilities that would go around changing the course of the world. So maybe 11 will meet up with all the other numbers from the lab to come together to fight the Mind Flayer for the finale. I mean, the Duffer Brothers did say that the biggest thing that is going to happen this season is that it's going to open up a bit in terms of allowing plot lines into areas outside of Hawkins. And besides Russia, this could easily mean introducing more numbers and their powers from different areas joining the fight against the Upside Down and ultimately their father, Brenner. Because don't forget, he is very much so alive and well.
He is alive. I'll take you to him.
If he's alive, Jane will find him, just as she found you.
And I'm betting the Russians will have captured him to have him help them open a portal of their own to the Upside Down. Because the Russians will open a portal to the Upside Down. They've been trying for 3 seasons now with mild success. There's no way it's not going to happen in season 4. And who better to help them finally do it than the man himself who started all this? Maybe the Russians will take all their equipment to Chernobyl in hopes of using their nuclear reactors to power their death laser just to give them enough juice to open their own portal. They teased Hopper encountering the white Demogorgon we saw in the post-credit scene from season 3, as well as a bunch of Russians and our new Terminator replacement friend. But after he escapes or gets rescued, what if they go to Chernobyl to stop the Russians and the Mind Flayer from coming to our world, and that's when everything goes down? Big fight, massive explosion, Chernobyl cover-up. Because how are you going to explain that to the rest of the world? And they can't make season 4 in April of 1986 and not have Chernobyl be mentioned at all. Or maybe something will go wrong while opening the portal and that causes a massive nuclear explosion of radiation and it creates mutated Demogorgons they have to fight now. Whoa, okay, so crazy theory, but what if the explosion and radiation happened because of the giant showdown between 11 and the rest of the numbers against the Russians and the Mind Flayer and the evolving Demogorgons, and then the real-life events take place, everyone's evacuated and the city is shut down, and because of all the radiation, no one can inhabit it for 20,000 years, just like real life. What if over time, the radiation and decay just gets worse and worse instead of better because of this huge hole the Russians ripped in the Upside Down, and over the course of time, our Earth decays into what will eventually become the Upside Down. We know that atmosphere is toxic, probably from radiation or the heavy amounts of decay or pollution. The Upside Down is a complete mirror of the real world, but just run down and unlivable, with the only thing roaming around being Demogorgons and the Mind Flayer. Maybe the Mind Flayer coming through the portal to our Earth and fighting all the numbers does more damage to the world than we think, and it just keeps getting worse. Maybe the kids, or just 11, will go through a portal to go back in time to try to prevent all this and the Upside Down being created in the first place. Maybe if her and her friends can stop the Mind Flayer from getting through the portal at Chernobyl, they can prevent the world from turning into the Upside Down. Because maybe the Upside Down is the same world that they're in, just 100 years in the future after the nuclear fallout. That would be crazy. I would love to see something of this scale come to fruition through the Duffer Brothers. I'm sure they have great things planned for the season, but seeing something like this with all the numbers coming together to fight the Mind Flayer in a final showdown would just be absolutely epic. But whatever happens, I trust their judgment. They haven't let us down yet. They also tease that a new horror is surfacing back in the States, something long buried that connects everything. I'm hoping this is Brenner, and this means they're going to connect all the numbers to Elle and maybe go back and retouch on Hopper's daughter and connect his past somehow, along with Will and the Mind Flayer's connection. They're saying this season is going to be the biggest and most frightening season yet, and I really hope they're right. Season 3 was really good, and while it's going to be hard to top, they set themselves up pretty well with Hopper's death and imprisonment in Russia and 11 losing her powers and the kids splitting up. I wish Alexei was still with us, but I guess we can't have everything we want. I'm also really excited to see what the Russians try to do with the Demogorgons and how they're going to weaponize them or turn them into soldiers. But thank you so much for watching. I'm going to put an end card here to subscribe. All you have to do is click this circle. It couldn't be any easier. And comment down below what you think of this theory. I really want to know. I hope everyone's being safe and their quarantine is going well. I'll have more videos out soon, but until then, go watch my other video on Harbour potentially getting powers for Season 4. I really like that theory. And until next week, I will see you in the comments. Peace.
You kept something you knew was probably dangerous in order to impress a girl who you just met?
All right, that's grossly oversimplifying things.